Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new Self-Publishing Mastery Talks episode. We've been talking about fiction books in the previous episodes. We've been talking about how to market fiction books, but we never actually really discussed in depth about the self-help books market. But luckily, I have a dear friend who is also a very successful author. He's a life coach. He is also a very gifted blogger and a man who's following his dreams and his passion, and a very gifted writer. So welcome and thank you for being here with us today, Vishnu of Vishnu's Virtues.
Thanks so much, AG. Thanks for having me. Very excited to talk to you. You are one of my good friends and a fellow author, and we've always shared a lot of ideas on what works and what doesn't work in the self-help space. So very excited to talk to you, and and we can actually record it this time.
There is a lot in it today for you guys because we will actually, what we are going to talk about is like best practices for writing and marketing self-help books, because Vishnu's already, I think he's an expert. How many books have you written so far?
I think close to 10.
I want you to know that before he became a writer, Vishnu had a different career. He was a lawyer.
Yeah. I'm trying to forget that about part of my life. But yeah, I used to be a lawyer and I used to be representing people in court.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very happy that I'm not doing that.
Before getting into the marketing and all of that stuff, I would like you to tell people how you started writing. What was your first book? What was the process from being a lawyer, turning yourself into a first-time author? What happened back then?
So let me pull up that first book, Sacred Laws of Healing a Broken Heart. I don't have to tell you too much. I think that...
Yeah, that speaks for itself. That's true.
So essentially, like, all good love stories or all good breakups, I think that's essentially, I was married at one time and I was going through a divorce. And for a long time in my life, I had known that I had some writing ability and writing, and I was a lawyer, so I wrote a lot. But it actually took this sort of life-crushing, soul-crushing circumstance, going through a divorce. It just brings out all your creativity, all your passions, all your dreams. That's one of the messages I share in my books as well, which is you can go through like a big struggle. And, it was out of that experience that I actually started writing, because I was going through a very painful time in my life. And I wanted to both document, chronicle, and guide other people along the process. So I had started the blog a little bit before that. And when I decided it was time to write a book, I wrote that book.
Some people may wonder, okay, I've got this life experience or I got this expertise and I want to write a book, but I have no clue how to write a book. So how did you learn that? I mean, it's different to write paperwork for court as a lawyer compared to writing a book, right?
Yeah, I think, when we're a lot of us who are doing self-publishing and we're starting off on authors on our own, I just want to remind us that we have all read books. We've read plenty of books in our lives. And those of us who are writing in the self-help space, we have read plenty. So we know what books we like and why, and what books we don't like and why, what formats we like and why. So I think that's essentially where I started. I went with what I knew and what I had seen.
What are the mistakes you did with the first book that you don't do anymore?
That's an interesting question, because my first book is probably one of my better selling books. So it was a very good book, and it continues to sell, that first one. So what would I have done different? I think people, believe it or not, they complain that it's too short. They said it's good, but we wish it was longer.
So how many words is that book?
I think that book was closer to like 20,000 words. How it was, once I heard about the self-publishing and knew that I could put out the book on my own, I heard about it on a podcast, and immediately I thought to myself, okay, hey, I could do this. I have a story. And I just did not, after I heard this idea, I just sat down and, like, I had been blogging before. I was like, I'm just going to sit down and write everything that I know about this topic and just sort of get to the point and get it out there. And I did it in like a very, maybe in like a week. I just sort of put everything that I knew out there. So I think, okay, so if you're asking me what I would do differently, then I would probably say give myself a little bit more time to brainstorm a little bit more, to add things that I had not thought about. I just thought like, hey, I want to get this book out. It's done. It's everything I know on this topic. But of course, now I've written several other books on this topic. And I'm like, okay, I didn't cover everything in that first book. So I would have given myself more time. I would have explored more topics. I would have thought about the questions my readers had. I would have been talking more to my community. And these are all the things that I do now.
I understand that what prompted you in the first place to write your first book was your personal experience and also your desire to be of service and help other people who go through a similar experience. How do you choose your topics? I mean, how do you do it nowadays? And what's the best way to come with a topic for a self-help book?
Right.
How do you find that sweet spot between what you are passionate about and what people need?
I love your question. And I feel like this is going to be the most important thing I can say, because I don't really consider myself an expert per se. But, once you write 10 books, okay, sure, you have some experience. And here is the thing that I've really found. And people may not know this, and especially first-time authors, especially personal development, especially self-help authors. So I'm talking to all of you out there, right, who want to write your first book. And I want to leave you with this very strong message, which is over the years, the books that I've written and the ones that I've sold, I notice tend to provide a solution, tend to be the answer to a very specific problem that people have. So what we naturally want to do is we want to write biographies, we want to write memoirs, we want to write about what we've been through in our life. We want to write, even worse, in the personal development niche, we want to write how to be a success, how to achieve your dreams, how to have a life of transformation, how to make changes. And those books are fine. They're perfectly fine. But the thing is that market is saturated with those kinds of books. Authors, they just come out and give sort of a rah-rah speech, like a general motivation speech. If you're not a big name, you cannot stand out. That's what I've realized. As they're going through Amazon and they're going through Google, I notice what people do is they type in very specific things in there. People don't go there and say, maybe they say, how do I find a new relationship? But they get much more specific. So I think the more specific, and if you have a blogging audience and they ask you specific questions, like how do you do this or how do you do that, then you pick up on their questions and you write a book that answers that very specific question. The idea is to not go big, not write about everything in the world, not think to yourself, wow, I've had a great life and I've gone on this personal growth journey. I'm going to share everything I know with people. No, they don't want to hear that because they've heard that from many other people. If you want to do this because you want a book out there and you want a lot of people to know your life story, then write one of those books. But if you want to sell books, look for the problem. I just want to mention that a couple of my books, as an example, that have been selling well or selling better, ones that haven't as much, this is a perfect example in a way, because this is the book we spoke about last time, 7 Sacred Promises, a practical guide for living with meaning and purpose.
So that wasn't so successful as your first book.
Right.
Because what? Right. Because it didn't really.
It's
such a general. Okay.
With writing about meaning and purpose, there's no one is waking up in the middle of the night thinking, they are, but there's many, many, many books that address that. There's The Alchemist. There's so many personal development books that do that. Because if they type that into Google or Amazon, they're going to get so many books out there on this exact topic. So that did not sell as well. It's so general, 7 Sacred Promises, a practical guide for living with meaning and purpose. So books that then got better, and I'll tell you, what got better and sell a little bit more. So does true love exist? 15 simple ideas for finding your life partner. So that book was solving a little bit more of a problem. But then I have to tell you why that's not as effective either. Because finding a life partner, there's plenty of, I think then you move to, there's plenty of people that are writing about that topic, right? So there's plenty of books in that genre. So then I would say, to help people sort of narrow down, don't write super broad, and don't write about a topic where there's tons and tons of information out there. So finding a life partner, many people write books on that. You read it in Cosmo magazine, and you read it in, lots of magazines, and you find that information in lots of different places. So I found that topic, even though it sold better, it was solving a problem. Does true love exist, and ideas for finding love. It was a big space.
If you were to rewrite this book, how would you narrow it down more?
Great question. I would be looking at, how to find love. So I would be asking people, my audience, what their specific questions were. And some of the questions on how to find love that people do ask me is, they ask me how to find love when you're tired of finding love, when you're tired of looking for love, because they've been looking for so long, and how do they keep going? When they're sick and tired of the dating process. So that's one problem. Another problem is, I hate the dating apps, and I hate online dating. So that is a very real problem. Like, how do I find love despite having to find love online?
How to find love for people who hate dating apps? Probably that.
Yes. If anyone is hearing this and they see that, yes, that's a great one.
Okay, maybe I'll write this one if you don't mind. But your latest book sells really well, right?
Yeah, this is probably my best-selling book. It's called The Sacred Art of Letting Go. Walk 12 Steps with Spiritual Masters to Let Go of Past Relationships and Find Peace Today. And it's essentially a book on how to walk 12 steps with spiritual masters on how to let go of past relationships. So that is an issue that people said, like, okay, I want, when I was talking to them about finding love and finding a new relationship, they kept saying, but how do I let go of the past relationship? So what I did was, I had a lot of thoughts on that. I have a lot of ideas on that. But I also looked at, because I'm also, similar to you, a spiritual person, and I followed a lot of spiritual teachings. I went and looked at what the Dalai Lama and what Michael Singer and what different spiritual teachers said about different aspects of letting go. And so this was a specific book for people who are trying to let go of past relationships, because that is a question that people are regularly asking themselves. Like, okay, maybe I need to find love, maybe I need to move on, but I can't do it because I keep thinking about the past and I keep going back there. So it was a very specific and solution-oriented book for my market. And that is the one that's really selling well today.
Let's say that somebody has an idea for a book. How do you validate that idea? What's the next step?
After they have the book idea? Mm-hmm. Okay, then the next step would be, I think it's to collect all of the different questions that people have on that topic. So that's why I think research is important in these topics, right? Because when you get what the big question that people are asking you is, and you sort of have a closer idea on that, what are the many different ways, intricacies of that? How do you let go when you can let go? How do you let go when the past feels so heavy? How do you let go when the memories keep coming up of the past? People are asking me, so how do you find that out? So short of talking to your, and we may not have big lists, we may not have big audiences. So what you have to do is become a very good detective of people talking about your topic. And wherever they go, if it's about whatever the issue, if it's about weight loss, or if it's about relationships, or if it's about health, or changing careers, go there and find out what the different questions that people have are, and what the different topics that people have are within that topic. And then you sort of put all of that together, and in a way that almost becomes my chapters. What are the specific issues that people are having in each area? And that can almost serve as the so it takes a lot of listening. And how do you listen other than looking on places where people are online? That's why a blog is so great. So when I started blogging, people started giving me feedback both on the comments and when I sent out an email, they would reply to me telling me, I know what you're saying, but how do you do this? Or I know what you're saying, but it's been so many years, and I don't feel like there's hope for me anymore. So it's like I'm so tired of holding on to the past that I don't want to. I feel like my past will repeat in the future. These are things that people said to me, and I said, okay, thank you. I answered their questions, and then I would also make that as a chapter of the book. Go to blogs that have a lot of engagement. Go to Amazon Books. Amazon Books is actually a great place. I heard this tip once before, and I'm just sharing it with you. You can go, if you really want to write a topic, go check out what are the other books that are written on the genre, on these topics online. Go to those books, look through their reviews. And in the reviews, people will essentially tell you what book to write. Right? So if you pick another book, when you go through the reviews, what they'll tell you is things like, this book was good, but they didn't talk about the practical aspects of this. They didn't talk about how to do this. They didn't talk about this particular issue. And then you think to yourself, hey, they didn't do it, I'm going to do it. Right? Just because, so that's another way. So blogs online, other people's blogs, other people's books, places, forums. There are still forums on your topics out there. So hanging out in those places, there are Facebook groups are another great place, right? So you just become a listener, and you really pay attention to the questions that people are asking you. And what's another great place? If you have, those of us who are talking about these issues, we're not just living in the online world, and more than likely those issues are also in our everyday life. We probably have a large network of people, or even a small network of people. You are in my network. I have a few other people in my network who I'm regularly talking about these issues about. And relationships is a good one. We talk about that a lot.
Yes,
and we are trying to figure it out, and we ask ourselves questions. And those questions are legitimate questions. So people within your inner circle are always asking you questions. So that's a place too. You don't just have to be online. You can also listen to real people having real conversations. If you have a friend who's always calling you up and saying like, I don't know what to do about this. Like, I just need to get more fit, or I just don't know what's wrong with me. I just feel like there's something wrong with me and I can't find a relationship, or I am just tired of my job and I don't know how to, whatever it is they say, they're probably giving you lots and lots of questions and research. We just don't think of it as research.
When do you know that you've done enough research?
I just keep it on like little index cards like this, and sort of each one becomes a different chapter. And what I do is, if I, I'll just pick a number, 7, 10, 12, 15 chapters, and I will just look for the same questions. And once you start hearing the same, there's not a bottomless pit. The pain points are a few. And if you just pick up, and I think that the idea is, and the strategy is, look for common questions, right? So it's almost like it's a survey, so you don't put every question in there. It's what are the ones that keep coming up.
Okay.
So that's when you know that's a real pain point for people.
What is your strategy for choosing the titles of your books?
More recently, the titles is, I think what I tend to do, because it's all based on what my clients want. And I almost try to write the titles these days based on the question that they have or the solution that they're looking for, and using it in their words, right? So I would start there, use them as the, because if they're asking these questions in their head and then they see these questions on your book title, then that's the book that they're going to pick, because they're like, yeah, how do you lose weight in 30 days? How do you lose weight after the holidays? How do you find a relationship after a divorce? Okay. So tip number 1 is to figure out their words that they use and come up with a title. And tip number 2 is, once you have it, write out, like I try to do about from 20 to 50. I write them out. And then another great tip is, we are writers, we know other writers. So once you do is, once you have your best 5 or 10, and I've done with you done this with you in the past. I've sent it to other writers and said, what do you think? What sounds the best here? And ideally, if you have readers, you would ask them too, right? So it's a combination of what your target reader market wants, what you think, and what the ideal buyer wants. Just to simplify it, come up with almost say like, what is the question your target audience, what's the biggest question they're asking you, make that your title, and then come up with about 20 to 30 variations of it, and have an audience, poll people, and see what sounds good.
Is that like a strategy or a specific outline for self-help book? Let's say word count, like number of chapters. I kind of weave in stories with practical advice.
Yeah, my strategy is the same, is to, in this last book, I think it was helpful because I brought in other people. I brought in the spiritual leaders and spiritual experts. I think bringing in examples outside of yourself helps people. So I think, stories you hear, things that you read that you can bring into this always helps. Word count, I'm not the expert on. I think what I've heard people say is whatever it takes to get the point across, right? Okay. So, yeah. So my books tend to be anywhere from 25 to 40,000 words. Here's one way to think about it. Shorter might be better if your problem is more defined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you have a bigger generic problem, you could write how to find purpose and meaning. That's probably the book, the most number of words I've written, right? And, the ones that are much more, if you have a more defined topic, a more targeted topic, then the word count will be less. And it's just, people are not wanting to know, like they don't want every theory and every story there. They're like, how do you help me solve this problem? So whatever it takes to help people solve the problem. I try to keep a word count. Right now I'm writing a book. It's maybe about 1,000 to 2,000 words a day that I keep. And I try to do that for a month or so. And you can get books done that way. You can write 30,000 to an up book within a month.
How does the size of the book impact price?
Let me say this. Probably, I bet you, they don't look at it in the beginning.
Okay, that's good news, yeah.
They don't look at it in the beginning. Here's how it is. If they read the book and it doesn't answer their question,
they will be unhappy and write a bad review.
They'll write a bad review and they'll be like, this was either all fluff, this was not helpful, this was too short.
Yeah.
Like my first book, it was helpful, but people told me that it was too short. They're like, I wish this was longer. Like, it's not, you can't put down in 25,000 words how to recover heartbreak, which is about the most stressful thing, short of a death that's imaginable in the human experience. But I just put it out there as like, this is what I know. You're just going to get the bare bones, this is the essence of what I know. So, it has to be a mixture of personal experience, the advice that you're giving people, stories that can help them, examples that can help them.
Self-help books can be priced a little bit higher than fiction books.
My strategy is to keep it at the $2.99. The book that was selling a bit better than all the others, The Sacred Art of Letting Go, I did price it up a little bit higher, and I noticed the sales go down just a little bit. But I think I would just, I did it from $2.99 to $3.99 for the ebooks. But here's the difference, and here is how I've set this up. Ultimately, what I want is selling these books and getting these books into the hands of people and helping them with these issues through the books is step one. And that is something that I'm doing and I'm regularly doing. But ultimately what, for me, my strategy is and what the business model is and what I really truly enjoy is coaching people. So my strategy is, let me get this book out to as many people as I can. And, sometimes if people even email me about something or a question, I might just send them the book. Because I want them to read it, I want them to get help from it, and maybe I want them to hire me as a coach. Yeah. So, I think my strategy may be different from just a regular author who's just trying to sell books as far as pricing strategy and just have the business. Like I actually, for a couple reasons, and I'm not just saying this, I enjoy the coaching, But I think the other great thing about coaching is you're talking to people and you are really understanding their problem. And it gives you many more opportunities to write better books that solve even more like minute, distinct, defined problems.
Coaching other people, helping them with issues that you've been dealing with and solved can be a research tool and another revenue stream.
Absolutely. You know what's another great research tool? And I don't know, we're going to talk about this later, but just one of my favorite tools at the moment. So I'm talking about it all the time, but I'm living Instagram at the moment. Instagram is the new, so we can come back and talk to.
Well, I think we are already there because my next question is about book marketing. So how do you market your books? And I know that you use Instagram a lot, but primarily your blog is the tool that draws people to your book. You have like a few good thousand people on your
3,000 folks on there. Yes. So here's the thing, right? It used to be at the blog, right? It used to be all about the blog. Here's essentially my secret for growing the blog. Okay, there's no secrets to this, but it's essentially I wrote on other people's blogs more than I wrote on my blog. People are never going to find you on your blog. Mm-hmm. They are going to, so it's basically you have to write guest posts. Is guest posts easy? No. Is it, they have higher requirements. They, you have to write for their audience. They have to like what you've written. You have to find them. You have to go back and forth with the author, with the blogger, until you land it and get it out there. So that's essentially the secret to blogging, getting as many guest posts out there. People do find me on my blog through organic search, and they do end up signing up. And then I send them a series of emails, and I do pitch my books. Almost every one of my posts pitches one of my books to them and tells people to buy my book. So that is credible. It works, and it still works today in 2019. I just want to make an observation that, our cell phones, our iPhones, here's what I'm noticing is happening, right? Because I don't know if it's laziness or convenience, but people, they just want to do everything in one place. So Facebook, in a way, has become the new blog. Instagram, in my case, has become the new. They like, tell me everything I need to know here while I'm scrolling through my feed. So Instagram of late has been a fantastic place to put videos, to put quotes, to put, even what I do is chop up my blog posts and put 3 or 4 photos together so they flip through the article. Mm-hmm. I think people are just want to be in one place. So Instagram, I'm noticing that the whole, it's the whole entity is, it's a one-stop shop. Like everything happens there, right? So, and it allows you to use hashtags. And so when I use the hashtags of breakup and divorce, people find my content through that. They watch what I'm saying and they read, and then they ask me more questions. So that's been a great platform.
That's interesting because on other blogs and vlogs and podcasts, people recommend Instagram to authors who write for, let's say, young adult audiences.
To answer that point, I would simply say people are growing up.
Oh, okay.
People are getting older.
Yeah.
So that's what, that's all it is. Instagram got older. People are getting older. So there's more people on Instagram, more and more so nowadays.
What else works for you in terms of book marketing?
Blogging and guest posting. Mm-hmm. Instagram, and especially Instagram stories, Instagram videos. There's many features on Instagram. And then I think the other thing that I've been trying more to do is podcasting. And trying to get on more shows and talk to more people about my books. So what else do I do? And I think that's about it, AG. I could probably do other things like Facebook, like Twitter, like other social media accounts. But I think the idea is to pick like 1 or 2 or 3 things and just keep that in your zone, right? Yeah. So for me, I pick one social media, Instagram, and I pick one like strategy, blogging, and then I'm introducing, podcasting and doing podcasts on there as well as part of the strategy. I think what a lot of people do is they just pick different things and they go, and their energy is so spread out and they don't become good at it. with blogging and Instagram, for example, if you keep doing the one marketing strategy, you get better and better at it. You learn what works, you learn what doesn't, and then you see where it goes. And you will become an expert, just like how I became a quote unquote expert in book writing. If you use one platform regularly, it becomes effective.
How about paid advertising? There are all these websites out there, like the revered book Bob, that will charge you like hundreds of dollars to put your book out there.
As far as the websites and the promotional, yes, use them. They work. You'll have to see which one works better and which one doesn't. But I tend to do it more for the launches. Mm-hmm. So whenever I launch it, there's people, the last book I wrote, The Sacred Art of Letting Go, had like 2,000 downloads. So without question, the 3 or 4 services that I hired on Fiverr and on Upwork and just other, the sites that list all the people that promote your books, use them because they are effective, right? You will know how much your budget is for marketing, and so use that.
What would be, in your opinion, a minimum required budget for marketing?
I think you could do it with like minimum $50.
Okay.
You could do it, and maybe I might have spent maybe up to a couple hundred. Yeah, so there are people out there who are sending it out to their list, and if you find if they're doing nonfiction, and it tends to work. I think as a self-published author, you have to do paid advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I somehow feel like, I should not have to do that. Like it or hate it, advertising works. So I've started experimenting with Amazon ads. My sales have probably doubled. So I should probably not complain. It sells me twice the number of books. And if my goal, and even if, that erases my profits, if more people are getting a hold of my book, more people are learning about me, and more people hire me for coaching, then it's working for me.
How about the reviews?
It's very important. And, everything, AG, comes down. I mean, everything that we do, here's the thing, right? Here's some wisdom for everyone, for all the writers out there and all the authors. You're hearing it from me. You may not even like me saying this because I don't like this. We are introverted people that do not want to deal with other people. We just wish we could do our work and that would be it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. And in the online world, we have to network. We have to network with our buyers, our purchasers, our readers, and ultimately, who we have to network with? The people that read our books and buy our books. So we have to be engaged with them, and if they're on a list, you have to ask them. It's the hardest thing to do, but if people have read your previous books, then you have to ask them. And you're emailing them every week. Then you can offer them a free copy for them to review, or a review copy ahead of time, and you have to ask them. And it's so hard to ask, but I think when you build relationships with other writers, build relationships with other people in your niche, people like sometimes stay away because from personal development, they're like, oh, I don't want to be friends with this person because they're writing about the same topic. No, you can work together in a lot of different ways. You can just post with each other. You can review each other's books. There's a lot of advantages of us working together. You invited me on your podcast. We talk about book ideas. We talk about, reviews. We talk about, lots of different things to help us promote and get the word out. So the bottom line on reviews is you have to ask your audience, but they're not going to do it unless they know who you are and unless you have a relationship with them. If they don't hear from you for months and then you say, can I get a review? They're not going to really respond well. And the last thing I would say about reviews is have a target of how many you want and double that number, because if you ask 10, you'll get 5. If you ask 20, you'll get 10. That's what I've noticed.
What is your launch strategy right now?
I would say I do about 3 to 4 a year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
I think that kind of works very organically. Yeah. And it kind of works, AG, on just, believe it or not, I can't believe this is the strategy, but I am on Instagram. I am in a place where people can find me. So I listen to what they say, and if a lot of people are saying the same thing, I think to myself, oh, here's a book topic. I need to write about this because they're asking me lots of questions. And as you're getting lots of different, questions out there, and inquiries and thoughts and struggles, that's when it starts bubbling up, and then you're like, okay, this is something that I need to be talking about because people are struggling with this. So it's different from how I did it before, where I one day got inspired, like the Buddha, or I'm sitting, I'm like, oh, that would be an interesting topic to explore, or that that is my entire message to everyone today. Do not go with what you feel like writing and what inspires you and what your message to the world is. I mean, that is all helpful. Go with what your audience wants, because it's, you're trying to be successful and sell books. If that's your goal, go with what your audience wants. If you want it to do it because you want to leave a legacy, or you want, lots of people to know that you wrote a book, or for any other reason, then sure, write a book on whatever you want. But I feel like I'm talking to you about how to sell books and how people will buy your books. And these are some of the strategies that, to actually get people to buy.
And yeah, strategies that work for you, and I'm sure that can work for everybody else. I think it is also good to kind of find your niche, your main theme, and stay there, not sway from cooking to
Right.
breakups.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I don't know, train your body for the marathon.
Maybe I didn't even talk about it because that's like the basic. It's so basic. Yes, pick an area, and don't go, like I said, don't go broad. And AG, here's a tip. Actually, here's a tip for authors. If you really don't know, think about this. What is the biggest struggle you have overcome in your life? In what area? Start there, right? The biggest struggle. Like, did you, go through a lot of bad relationships and find a right one? Did you go through a lot of weight gain and loss and then were able to lose it? Did you, go through, depression and anxiety and, and had a lot of issues growing up, and then you were able to overcome it? Was your mind scattered and thinking about everything in the world, and then suddenly you started going to a Buddhist meditation center, and you got more balanced and situated, and and are more present and able to be more effective? Like, whatever it is you went through, like, start there, right? Start there, but also then use your audience's experiences and questions to help guide you, right? So if you don't know where to start or where to go, start in this place. Start with your own personal experience first.
Okay, wow, this was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, you did an awesome job.
Thank you.
I hope this, it's like I was excited about talking about all of these topics because I think it's what I've really experienced marketing books. And I think, you can only give great answers or helpful answers if you get asked the right questions. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure interviewing you, and good luck with your next book. I know you're writing a new one, and I'm sure we'll get together on this vlog sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Because the more books you are going to write, I know you're going to gain more expertise, and also the self-publishing landscape is changing all the time. So we need to be up to speed with it and experiment with the different tools we have.
Yep.
And see what works best.
Yep. Awesome. I can't wait to come back and do another one.
Thank you very much, Vishnu. Vishnu Subramaniam.
Thank you.